recording this to the cloud as I let Bo into this classroom. Hi, Bo. This is week 14, part 1 of a 3-part series. And we're going to go on motivation, which we know Bo has plenty of, and so does Christian. And I hope I do too. So I am going to start right in and just say, as I said in the email, I haven't graded any of those assignments. I haven't looked at them. Other than downloading a few right before I left with hopes that I'd be grading them at the Hyatt Regency on Wednesday last week, but that was not to be. Anyways, I'm glad to be here and not stuck in Chicago in snow. It's snowing in Wisconsin. It's light snow in Chicago. AERA, where I was, has snowed a couple of times in the past. This time it was like 80 when I got there, and 70s and 80s all the time until yesterday. And all of a sudden, those cold front snap happened. Anyways, I am going to start the recording and say, motivational theory is diverse. And over the past 100 years, we've had many people make inroads into the field of motivation, psychological motivation, human motivation, animal motivation, whatever your preference is and what you're going to study. But we'll also talk a bit about self-regulated learning if we get a chance. Depends on time here. And there are many reasons why people feel that they're not motivated. That the task structuring might not allow for much choice and freedom and autonomy. The content itself might not be intriguing, make them curious and highly interested in the topic. They might have had previous grades that weren't so good, and that causes them to fall into a cycle of learned helplessness. In effect, what do students want though? Well, as I said, they want, some sense of success, but they want some relevancy and authenticity and meaningfulness in the learning environment that's created. They want a sense of personal caring and belongingness and comfort and personal touch within that environment. They also need some task structuring, some role models and some guidance and some scaffolds within the environment so as to move on to higher levels of success. They want to be challenged. You don't want to give them what they already can do, which is fossilized skills. You want to push them beyond their zone of proximal development, as Vygotsky says, to the edges. What motivates people is offering things in multimodal formats, visuals and verbal and auditory and so forth. What is motivation? Marcy Driscoll says, who was a guest in this class 2 years ago, Marcy says, the process whereby goal-directed behavior is instigated and sustained. Goal-drivenness. Humans are goal-drivenness. We don't want to be like the Weatheralls who just walked through the life the same way every day and didn't ponder why they were doing so. Human automata, in effect. We don't want to be these Chinese and Japanese students who fall asleep during their calculus exams and chemistry exams and so forth. We want to engage learners, as Jean-Luc said, and we can engage learners using a variety of formats. My friend, not my friend, Jerry Brophy, who was never my friend. I'm not that old. He was in the field for 40 years studying motivation, and he found this set of principles to be tried and true, especially in K-12 environments, having a sense of curiosity and suspense and fantasy, having it be game-like, showing intensity and enthusiasm as instructor, as peers in the class, having goals setting being the norm of the tasks and the assignments, and creating opportunities for peer reinforcement and self-reinforcement, instructor reinforcement, and various forms of reinforcement. And as I said earlier, having a supportive structure of scaffolds and challenges and so forth. Let's see if there's any other important ones. These are all, product-based learning, moving towards end products, creating something is goal-oriented. What is intrinsic as opposed to extrinsic motivation? Intrinsic motivation, the innate propensity to engage one's interests, and exercises one's capacity, and in doing so, we seek out to master new challenges. Now, I said that in a totally gibberish way. So it's an inner propensity to do something, to seek new challenges, as they said in Star Trek, to go where no human being has gone before, right? It emerges from our inner strivings, our volition, our passion, our curiosity, our needs, and other things. So Edward Deci and Richard Bryan were all about intrinsic motivation, self-determination theory. They're at the University of Rochester in New York. Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers are two other people that are highly influential in the field of motivation. Carl Rogers said that all individuals have a drive to self-actualize, but we have to provide the freedom of choice, freedom for creative expression. You have to create an environment where there's a sense of respect and trust, and a sense where one's open to new experiences. I'm a kind of a Rogerian Skinnerian myself, as the guy who hired me at my first job at West Virginia said he was. Carl Rogers is one person who's a humanist. Abraham Maslow is another humanist out there, and Maslow has his hierarchical structure of famous needs that we have. Our physiological needs, like the need for water and food and so forth. So I was stuffing my mouth with raspberries before coming up here. A jar, about canister of raspberries, plastic. So beyond that, we have security needs, and we get those security needs from protections of our environment. Our parents, as we're young, watch out for us. We have love and belongingness needs above that. Sense of belongingness, need for belonging, need for friendship, need for appreciation. Above that, esteem needs, a need to succeed, a need for self-respect, self-esteem, and confidence. And then a need for a purposeful life, and eventually becoming self-actualized within that life, or hopefully becoming self-actualized. So in that order, he never really did the pyramid. Some other people created that after him. They took it to be Maslowian theory. I'm not sure if he would agree with this structure, actually. But motivational theorists say that we have both distal goals, those things far off in the distance, and proximal goals, those things nearby. So learning about different concepts, whether it's positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement or punishment, or whatever the concept we're learning about, metacognition, and then distal goals, those things in the future, trying to become a psychologist and learning enough concepts in psychology or in counseling or in school psych or whatever the close by discipline would be, that you'd have to learn about behavioral analysis, and we have to learn about positive and negative reinforcements and so forth. My son once worked at Global Zero, was just trying to eliminate nuclear weapons. That's not a proximal goal, that's a distal goal. It's probably a goal we would never meet. Performance goals. Performance goals are when people seek to gain favorable judgments or affirmations of their competence, of their skills, of their performance in an environment, whether it's playing tennis or running or taking the law exam or whatever it is, and avoiding negative judgments of their competence. It is a performance goal, wanting to get an A, not wanting to get an F on that, right, Bo? And performance goals, if you focus just on performance and not on the learning, most often you're one who might feel as though your intelligence is fixed. And if you're lacking in confidence and self-esteem, you might give up in that area and avoid even displaying the lack of talent that you might have, and eventually falling into a cycle of learned helplessness, of feeling as though you can't do anything, therefore you don't try to do anything, so you'll never get a negative response or negative feedback from anyone. You just give up and go hide in the corner and don't show yourself, don't come to class, don't sign up for the courses and so forth, drop out of school. If you fail, then you lack the ability and you give up because intelligence is fixed. So those are performance goals, have more dire situations and have to rely on unemployedprofessors.com for their thesis writing, or ChatGPT or whatever AI tool exists today to do your term papers and your thesis and so forth. When you have learning goals, you're motivated by a sense of curiosity in terms of the newness in one's environment, seeking something new, learning something new, and so forth. Most people have learning-oriented goals, feel as though intelligence is malleable, that intelligence can change. And we get into Carol Dweck's mindset theory, her growth mindset theory now. If you have learning as your goal, not your ultimate performance, then you'll keep trying. You have grit and determination at those tasks. So, you seek to master the task, and if you fail, you just try and adjust your effort, or you adjust the strategy that you chose. Maybe you had an inferior strategy. Maybe you didn't fully learn the strategy, and you got to go back to your supervisor or your instructor or the videotape you watched to learn that strategy a bit better, so that you can try it again and hopefully do better. Now, those at Starbucks who were offered 2 years of free tuition, then 4 years of free tuition, and then took Starbucks up on the offer and went back to college, could have either had performance goals or learning goals, but probably had learning goals primarily. But that I don't have the data in front of me to prove that. Competence motivation. Competence motivation increases when a person successfully masters a task. So you feel good about yourself. You feel more competent. A circular term there. You feel more competent in your abilities, and so you start becoming more self-efficacious and self-confident that you'll be able to perform. Desire and curiosity to learn about potential. Let me go back. Desire and curiosity to learn about potential problems before any serious mistakes happen. So you'll seek new information. You'll seek other opportunities. You'll seek your peers out, your instructors out for more resources, so that you can have a wide gamut of knowledge before the challenges come up. So you can overcome those too, and you keep leveling up, as they would say in the gaming world. You keep moving on to different potentialities. David McClelland's research talked about high need for achievement and low need for achievement people. People like Christian have a high need for achievement. People like Bo have a low need. No, I don't know. And so some people have a high need for achievement, and they need concrete feedback that they're doing well, that they're progressing, and so forth. They're often the highly productive students in your classrooms, or in your unit, or in the Boy Scouts, or wherever. The Eagle Scouts are going to be your people with high needs for achievement, right? Those people with multiple degrees that go and get their master's and then their EDD, Christian, might be those that have a high need for achievement. They tend to get better grades and tend to be promoted faster than others. Some achievement quotes. Failure only determines this, that a determination to succeed is not strong enough. That's a person with a high growth mindset. A performance, a learning goal as opposed to a performance goal. A young person to achieve must first get out of his or her mind any notion that either of ease or rapidity of success. Again, having a growth mindset to keep learning, keep pushing, even though you're not initially seeing the results, you keep trying, keep trying, keep trying. We have Jennifer here now. Welcome Jennifer into tonight's class. So those are just some achievement quotes in here. Low affiliation, those with low need for affiliation might be more on the social side of things, wanting to socialize, getting attitudinal feedback, are more concerned about the environment that they work in and how they look within that environment, pleasing other people, as opposed to achieving high on test scores. They're less concerned with how they are doing, but more concerned with how people feel about them and how they look in other people's eyes. Approach and avoidance motivation are another two concepts out there, and I've defined them, and you can see if my definition helps. The book definition of approach modification is the energization of behavior by or the direction of behavior toward positive stimuli, objects, events, and possibilities. Okay, so we got the energization of behavior. The Bonk definition is a human tendency to approach tasks in which people feel a sense of competence or curiosity. So hopefully, from learning the Bonk definition, you start understanding the book definition, right? What is the energization of behavior anyways? Well, it's basically to approach tasks, to move towards tasks, where you feel you have a sense of competence and curiosity, as opposed to avoidance motivation. I'm sure Christian, I'm sure Jennifer, I'm sure Bo, I'm sure myself have in the past month enacted some avoidance motivation. Okay, avoidance motivation. The book definition is the avoidance motivation is the energization of behavior by or the direction of behavior away from negative stimuli, objects, events, and possibilities. Now, I'm heavy in my life on avoidance motivation. I avoid
Is
things.
this like procrastination?
It can be if it's a task related, but
Research paper?
it can be that too. It could be that too. You know, you avoid then getting the reviewers sending you negative feedback. You avoid getting your colleagues who worked on the paper with you telling you're all crap that you've written, right? But it can be much more than that, much more than your performance. Anyhow, it could be just avoiding someone because of a previous bad experience with them, that you were yelled at by the unit leader or patrol leader in the military, and just try and avoid them as best you can. And you know, you avoid standing out so as to get yelled at yet again. So
I was thinking of avoiding certain social media platforms
yeah.
During election cycles.
Oh, anytime.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we've only found one, according to the media, the news I just read, we only found 1% of the Russians who are fake. There's 99% more that we haven't even located yet. So you don't know what you're reading and who you're reading from, you know.
Yeah.
So in the secret documents thing. So how did a guy get a hold of that much secret documents who's just an entry-level guy? I mean, really, you know, there's something wrong in the system. Anyway, I digress. The Bonk definition: human tendency to avoid tasks in which you don't feel competent and you don't feel you will succeed. Okay. So continue motivation to keep going, keep trying, keep doing. What happens in the past determines to a large sense what you're going to do in the future. So if I did good yesterday in my presentation, I'll want to go back to ARA and do it again. You know, if you did well in the midterms, you want to, you know, try it again. If you did good on the quiz or whatever it is, if you won your tennis match, or, you know, again, if you ran the marathon and finished, you might want to run another one. So whether the learner's expectations were met and its consequences. And so if you were satisfied with the consequences of your behaviors, you might engage in it again, and so forth. So what attributions are you making about your performances, about your successes and failures out there? By providing rewards for participation in an activity we already do, stuff that we already would do, stuff that we really like doing, that tends to reduce the propensity of one engaging that behavior. So if you give money or candy or bubble gum or, you know, stickers to things kids like to do, they might not do it next time unless you give them gum or candy or so forth. So you don't want to disrupt their motivational systems, I guess, if you will, their sense of continued motivation by offering those rewards and praise and so forth. Now, that's not 100% tried rule there. You do need to provide praise for people if they're performing tasks repetitively over and over and over again, which gets us into the next aspect of continuing motivation: being an accountant, being a vacuum cleaner salesman, you know, enter yourself into a spelling bee contest. You know, positive consequences, especially important on repetitive, boring kinds of tasks that you have, like being an accountant, filling out the annual reports as faculty have to do, that takes days, at this time weeks, of painful stuff, and then we don't get any raises anyways. I don't know why we do it. So there's no continuing motivation at all. Basics of motivation: Carol Ames and her husband, and Carol Ames was on the board, and she might still be on the board of advisors for the School of Ed. She was the dean at the University of Michigan State University. I had 3 of her books back when she was at Iowa on motivation, 3 good edited books. She approaches it from a cognitive theory point of view. Motivation serves to create intentions and goal-seeking acts. One well-developed area of research, highly relevant to learning, is achievement motivation. I've already mentioned that. Motivation to achieve is a function of your desire for success and the expectation of success and the incentives provided. Motivation serves to create intentions and goal-seeking acts. So motivation propels us into that environment, and humans are goal-driven creatures. Therefore, when we say so-and-so doesn't have much motivation, that's a stigma on them that they're not going to succeed in their environments that they might have a job in or might be studying for. I think after break, I'll get to Weiner's research about attributions of success and failure, because it's extremely important to think about the stability of our motivation and the controllability of our motivation. Now, one might engage in a task that's highly unstable and highly controllable. Other tasks might be highly stable and uncontrollable. And if you fail at a task in which is uncontrollable and is highly stable, you will definitely, or more than definitely, you can't be more than definitely, you're more than likely give up on that task. So this is an extremely important concept, but I think I should stop for a second and pause this and say, do any of you have any questions about those terms so far? Have you heard any of those terms, and which ones would they be?
Intrinsic motivation has always been one of the ones that I've used, and I think it was achievement motivation was the other one. I hadn't heard that one, but as I was just thinking about my time in the classroom, last 6 years, I had high ability students, and they were more concerned about just their achievement and not the learning process that was taking place a lot of times. And so that was something I had to work a lot with them to kind of overcome that and recognize that there's a lot of value in the journey too.
So are you coming to us from a hotel room?
I am, yes.
How do I know that?
The lovely bed in the background.
In the painting or whatever that is.
I didn't see what that was. Very 90s-ish though, yes.
Yes, it is. What city are you in?
I'm actually just outside Anderson right now.
They actually have hotels in Anderson.
Fingers crossed that this one is better than the last time I stayed here, because I woke up the next morning and there was 30 ants in bed with me. So
there is a song "Ants in Your Pants," but we won't get into that because this is being recorded. And we don't want to start those jokes rolling now, because people are serious when they watch the recordings, and so should we. So that's achievement motivation is an important term, and that's a good way to differentiate students. You do see them every day walk in who might have a low need for achievement, or just been cycled through in life that have pushed them towards the low end of psychological needs for achievement, that might be pushed towards the extrinsic side instead of the intrinsic side, right? Mm. So, but intrinsic and extrinsic is not this or that. It's not not bipolar opposites. Things can be both intrinsic and extrinsic, and some things are really hard to label as whether they're extrinsic or intrinsic. But if you seek a degree, if you seek a credential, that's extrinsic, but there's a lot of intrinsic along the way that's happening, or should be, or you're probably dropping out soon. So labeling something overarchingly as extrinsically a reward or intrinsically rewarding, and it may change, it may shift depending upon your mood and the stage of life that you're at. Whereas getting a certificate when you're a high school student, to learn English in Nepal, when you're in Nepal, well, that might have a lot of, intrinsic characteristics. So you're gonna need that English for your whole life, for many tasks. The certificates, you might not even, it's just, getting that skill is really, really important, whereas someone in high school in the US who's getting a Spanish major along the way, and not knowing if they're ever going to, not ever going to use that Spanish, that might be pretty extrinsic for them, right? Because they're just getting a degree for their vita or their resume, So again, it might change. Other issues or other things. Motivation is an important construct, but as you can see, there are many aspects to it. Approaching, avoiding, intrinsic, extrinsic, high need for achievement, low need for achievement, affiliation motivation, continuing motivation. Did I forget a couple? I probably did. Approach and avoidance motivation. So this is a huge field, and there are a number of people, whether behavioral camp, cognitive camp, humanistic camp, who have studied motivation. And so there's not a learning theory that it best applies to. You know, it's really, all these are eclectic in nature, right? And they should be part of any theory of human learning and development.
I'd be interested in hearing just a little bit, if Jennifer is there right now, her thoughts on the continuing motivation, since this, I believe, is her first semester in the program. Is that correct, Jennifer? Sorry, I didn't mean to call you out.
That's okay. I'm here, I'm listening as best I can. I was just shifting gears and getting the dog settled. Yeah, for me personally, it's a combination of factors. I haven't been in school for a long time. I was the teacher calling the shots for a long time, and now I'm, the role reversal. And then the distance is, I think, the biggest thing for me, because it's really easy to feel detached from the university. But the live synchronous Zooms have really helped me. So that's why I'm tuning in every week.
People don't believe me when I tell them that I actually look forward to Monday night Zoom sessions with the class, but it plays a big part in making me feel like I'm part of the class. I agree with you on that.
It really helps just to have a face to a name. It helps to I haven't tried a completely. No, I take it back. I tried one completely asynchronous course for continuing education, and it was no good for me. So, and I can do writing, I can do the discussion boards, but there has to be something more, I think, for me to buy in. Otherwise, I'm a lifelong learner, and I'm going to go to the library, and I'm going to keep checking out books, and I'm going to keep reading. So what additional thing does the course add to that? And for me, it's the interaction.
So Gina, we're just finishing a little chat about motivation. I did a little presentation and we're just doing a little reflection. I'll be stopping the recording in just a second. We'll start a new recording with you. But yeah, some people need that personal one-to-one, and some people need that alone time for reflection and to respond asynchronously. They're more comfortable with doing that. And so it's a little more difficult for instructors. It's a lot more difficult for instructors to offer in both formats at the same time, the flexibility. And this is not exactly a high flex model or high flex classroom, but in some ways it is. I'm allowing people to come in either format, but high flex is really allowing face-to-face or online experience. Here we're allowing online synchronous or an online asynchronous. So it's, that's been part of online learning for a long time, since synchronous really hit big time around 20 years ago. So a lot of this is not anything new. It's just Zoom's a little more efficient at it, or other tools are a little more efficient. People are more used to it, I guess, than in the past. So again, approach, avoidance motivation, intrinsic, extrinsic motivation, high need for achievement, low need for achievement, affiliation motivation, continuing motivation, and several other terms we learned tonight. I'll come back and talk about Weiner's attribution theory after Gina leaves us, but let's stop the recording. This is week 14, part 1 on motivation, and it is the end, going to the